Crimson stained the pristine snow as Aurora, a massive grizzly bear, struggled through her unprecedented labor in the depths of Yellowstone's Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Dr. Elena Rosewood, head of emergency wildlife medicine, gripped her thermal coffee mug so tightly her knuckles turned white. In 30 years of treating North America's most magnificent predators, she had never witnessed anything like this. The bear's fifth cub had just emerged into the crisp December dawn, but something in Aurora's haunting cries told the veterinarian that nature wasn't finished surprising them. The storm outside painted the observation room windows with swirling ice crystals, creating an almost mystical atmosphere as the team watched history unfold. Aurora's enormous frame, nearly 900 pounds of pure wilderness, trembled with each labored breath. The sophisticated monitoring equipment surrounding her birthing den beeped steadily, each sound echoing through the tense silence of the observation room. Dr. Rosewood's experienced eyes hadn't left the magnificent creature since the first contractions began 18 hours ago. "This is already unprecedented," whispered Dr. Chen, the center's leading reproductive specialist, his tablet forgotten in his hands as he stared through the reinforced glass. 5 viable cubs from a single mother. His voice trailed off as he shook his head in wonder. The scientific literature documented only a handful of cases where grizzly bears had successfully delivered and raised 4 cubs. 5 healthy cubs was pushing the boundaries of what the medical community thought possible. Aurora had arrived at the Yellowstone Wildlife Emergency Care Center, YWECC, under extraordinary circumstances. During one of the worst blizzards in recent Wyoming history, park rangers had found her unconscious near the thermal vents, her body temperature dangerously low. The decision to bring her in had been controversial. Interfering with wildlife was always a last resort, but something about her condition had struck the rangers as unusual. They had been right. The initial examinations revealed not only her pregnancy, but also unprecedented readings that had sent ripples of excitement through the wildlife medical community. Dr. Rosewood remembered staring at the first ultrasound images, her 3 decades of experience suddenly feeling inadequate to explain what she was seeing. The grainy images showed multiple cubs, but there was something else, something that had made her question everything she knew about ursine reproduction. Dr. Rosewood called Sarah Martinez, their lead wildlife nurse, her voice cutting through. "The memories. Her vital signs are showing some unusual patterns." The bank of monitors displayed Aurora's heart rate, blood pressure, and body temperature in glowing lines that told a story few would believe without witnessing it firsthand. The massive bear's readings resembled nothing in their extensive medical records. The 5 cubs born through the night lay clustered together, their tiny forms still wet from birth, each one already showing remarkable signs of health and vitality. In the wild, bear cubs often faced mortality rates as high as 50%, especially in multiple births where competition for resources was fierce. Yet each of these cubs displayed robust signs of life, their small chests rising and falling with strong, steady breaths. "Send the preliminary data to Dr. Whiteclaw at the International Bear Research Center," Dr. Rosewood instructed, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "She's going to want to see this." Dr. Margaret Whiteclaw had written the definitive text on ursine reproduction, and even she had never documented a successful birth of quintuplets. The observation room had filled with an elite team of wildlife specialists, each drawn by the unprecedented nature of the birth. Dr. Chen maintained a running commentary for the research record, his voice capturing every detail of what was quickly becoming the most extraordinary event in the center's history. Cubs 1 through 5 show normal coloration and size for grizzly newborns, he noted, his scientific tone belying the excitement in his eyes. Initial weights ranging from 1 to 3 pounds, all within healthy parameters. Outside, the storm intensified. Thick snow obscuring the majestic Teton Mountains that normally dominated the view from the observation windows. Inside, the sophisticated climate control systems maintained perfect conditions for the new mother and her cubs. The center, funded by a combination of government grants and private conservation donations, represented the cutting edge of wildlife medicine. Yet even with all their advanced technology and expertise, what they were witnessing defied explanation. Dr. Rosewood noticed it first. A subtle change in Aurora's breathing pattern. After 30 years of working with bears, she had developed an almost intuitive understanding of their behaviors. Something was different. The massive grizzly's muscles tensed in a way that sent a jolt of recognition through the veterinarian's body. "This isn't over," she announced, her voice barely above a whisper. The team's attention snapped back to Aurora. The monitors confirmed what Dr. Rosewood's experienced eyes had detected. The bear was still in active labor. "That's impossible," Dr. Chen muttered, rapidly scrolling through his research notes. The placental examination clearly showed 5 embryos. We documented 5 separate amniotic sacs. But Aurora's body told a different story. Her powerful muscles rippled with unmistakable contractions, and her vocalizations changed to a tone that Dr. Rosewood had never heard in all her years of wildlife medicine. The sound resonated through the observation room, a deep, haunting call that seemed to make the very air vibrate with ancient power. The sophisticated monitoring equipment began registering readings that defied explanation. Aurora's body temperature suddenly spiked, yet she showed no signs of distress. Her heart rate established a rhythm that Dr. Rosewood had never seen in any mammalian species, let alone a bear. The veterinarian found herself holding her breath, her scientific mind struggling to process what her senses were telling her. "Check those monitors again," she ordered, though she knew the equipment was functioning perfectly. The center's technology underwent rigorous daily calibration. These impossible readings were real. Whatever was happening in that birthing den was about to challenge everything they thought they knew about wildlife medicine. The 5 cubs, seemingly sensing the building tension, grew unusually quiet. Their normal mewling ceased as Aurora's massive body shifted, maternal instinct driving her to create a protective barrier between her existing cubs and whatever was about to emerge. The storm outside reached a crescendo, wind howling against the reinforced windows as if nature itself was holding its breath in anticipation. Dr. Rosewood felt the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. In that moment, she understood that she wasn't just witnessing an unusual birth. She was standing on the threshold of a discovery that would reshape their understanding of wildlife biology forever. Her hands moved automatically to adjust the high-definition cameras, ensuring that every second of what was about to happen would be documented beyond any doubt. The sophisticated lighting system in Aurora's den cast everything in crystal clarity, eliminating any possibility of misinterpretation. Whatever emerged next would be recorded with perfect precision, leaving no room for skepticism or denial. Dr. Rosewood silently thanked the foresight that had led them to install such advanced equipment, though she could never have imagined it would be used to document something like this. The team of specialists pressed closer to the observation window, their collective breath fogging the glass despite the climate-controlled environment. Decades of combined experience in wildlife medicine had not prepared any of them for what they were about to witness. In the birthing den, Aurora's massive form tensed one final time, and the next moment would change everything they thought they knew about the natural world. Time seemed to crystallize in the observation room as Aurora delivered her sixth cub into the storm-swept morning. The moment the cub emerged, every piece of monitoring equipment in the facility erupted into a cascade of alerts. Dr. Rosewood's coffee mug slipped from her suddenly nerveless fingers, shattering against the floor in perfect synchronization with the collective gasp from her team. No one moved to clean up the spill. No one could tear their eyes away from what lay before them. The sixth cub defied every law of nature they had ever studied, while its 5 siblings displayed the traditional dark brown fur of grizzly bears. This cub's coat shimmered with patches of pure white that seemed to capture and reflect the morning light. But it wasn't just the coloring that sent shockwaves through the medical team. The cub's size alone challenged everything they knew about ursine development. It was nearly twice the size of its siblings, yet showed no signs of distress or developmental issues. "This is beyond unprecedented," Dr. Chen whispered, his scientific composure cracking as he documented every impossible detail. "The pigmentation patterns alone violate everything we know about bear genetics." His tablet trembled in his hands as he captured photographs and measurements, each new observation adding to the growing list of impossibilities. The cub's movements immediately set it apart from its siblings. While newborn bears typically displayed weak, uncoordinated motions, this cub moved with deliberate purpose. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. Its oversized paws, marked with intricate patterns that resembled ancient petroglyphs, reached purposefully for its mother. Most shocking of all were its eyes. Bear cubs normally kept their eyes closed for weeks after birth, but this cub's eyes were already open, revealing irises of a striking gold color that seemed to glow in the den's careful lighting. Dr. Rosewood forced herself to approach the situation with scientific methodology, despite the growing sense that they had stumbled upon something that transcended conventional biology. "Sarah, begin full documentation protocol," she ordered, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. "I want every detail recorded: weight, measurements, temperature, heart rate, blood oxygen levels, everything." Sarah Martinez moved with practiced efficiency, though her eyes kept returning to the extraordinary cub with a mixture of wonder and professional fascination. The monitoring equipment produced readings that should have been impossible. The cub's body temperature ran several degrees higher than its siblings, yet showed no signs of fever or distress. Its heartbeat followed a pattern unlike anything previously documented in any bear species. "Dr. Rosewood," Sarah called out, her voice tight with controlled excitement, "you need to see these blood oxygen readings." The numbers on the monitor defied everything they knew about newborn physiology. The cub's cells appeared to process oxygen with unprecedented efficiency, suggesting an evolutionary adaptation that had never been seen before in any ursine species. Aurora's behavior added another layer of mystery to the unfolding situation. The massive grizzly showed none of the confusion or rejection that might be expected when faced with such an unusual offspring. Instead, she seemed to pay special attention to the sixth cub, positioning it carefully among its siblings and responding to its movements with a unique series of vocalizations that Dr. Rosewood had never heard in her 3 decades of bear research. The storm outside intensified, battering the observation windows with driving snow and howling winds. Inside, the atmosphere crackled with the electricity of discovery. Dr. Chen had already begun reaching out to his international colleagues, knowing that what they were witnessing would need to be verified by multiple experts. "I've contacted Dr. Isabella Montenegro at the European Wildlife Institute," he reported. "She's booking the next flight to Wyoming. No one's going to believe this without seeing it firsthand." As the morning progressed, the differences between the sixth cub and its siblings became even more pronounced. While the 5 normal cubs displayed typical newborn behavior, sleeping, nursing, and occasionally squirming, the unusual cub exhibited an awareness that should have been impossible in a newborn. Its golden eyes tracked movement in the observation room, and its vocalizations seemed almost purposeful, eliciting specific responses from Aurora each time. The white markings on its fur proved to be even more extraordinary upon closer examination. Rather than following any known pattern of mammalian coat variation, the markings shifted and changed depending on the angle of observation, creating designs that reminded Dr. Rosewood of the Aurora borealis dancing across northern skies. The patterns on its paw pads, initially thought to resemble petroglyphs, revealed themselves to be even more complex. They formed complete symbols that seemed to change and evolve as the cub moved. "We need to begin genetic sequencing immediately," Dr. Rosewood decided, knowing that the scientific community would demand extensive documentation. "Prepare for a full spectrum of non-invasive tests. Whatever this cub represents, we need to understand it without causing any distress to either the cub or Aurora." The implications of what they were witnessing began to sink in. This wasn't just an unusual birth or a unique genetic mutation. This was something that could fundamentally change their understanding of evolution and adaptation in large mammals. The cub's advanced development, unusual coloration, and inexplicable markings suggested possibilities that pushed the boundaries of known biology. Dr. Rosewood found herself thinking of the circumstances that had brought Aurora to the center. The bear had been found near thermal vents during a blizzard, her body temperature mysteriously low despite the heat from the geothermal activity. At the time, they had attributed her survival to lucky timing and the ranger's quick response. Now she wondered if there had been more to the story. What had really happened to Aurora before she was found? The storm's intensity seemed to mirror the growing excitement in the observation room. Teams of specialists arrived throughout the morning, each one drawn by urgent calls and messages about something extraordinary happening at the Yellowstone Wildlife Emergency Care Center. Dr. Rosewood watched as each new arrival went through the same progression. Initial skepticism, followed by shocked disbelief, and finally a kind of reverent wonder as they observed the impossible cub. Sarah Martinez had begun compiling a preliminary report, her trained nurse's eye capturing details that others might miss. The cub's muscle density was unprecedented for a newborn, suggesting development that should have taken weeks or months. Its respiratory system showed efficiency levels that exceeded even adult bears, and its cognitive responses indicated awareness far beyond what should be possible in a newborn mammal. As word of the extraordinary birth spread through the scientific community, Dr. Rosewood found herself fielding calls from research institutions around the world. Each conversation followed a similar pattern: initial disbelief, demands for evidence, and then stunned silence as they reviewed the preliminary data and video footage. The sixth cub's existence challenged everything known about ursine genetics, development, and evolution. Aurora remained remarkably calm throughout the growing commotion, displaying maternal behaviors that seemed perfectly adapted to her unusual offspring. She positioned herself to shield the sixth cub from direct observation when activity in the room grew too intense, and her vocalizations appeared to have a soothing effect on all six cubs, though her interactions with the unusual cub carried distinct differences in tone and duration. By midday, the center had implemented extraordinary security measures. News of something unprecedented had begun to leak, drawing media attention from across the country. Dr. Rosewood knew they couldn't keep this discovery secret for long. Nor should they. What they had witnessed would open new chapters in evolutionary biology and wildlife medicine. But she also understood the need to protect Aurora and her cubs from excessive attention during these crucial early hours. The storm that had been raging since dawn began to ease, revealing glimpses of the magnificent Teton Range through breaks. In the clouds, the changing light played across the sixth cub's unusual fur, creating patterns that mesmerized observers. Each new angle revealed different aspects of its extraordinary appearance, from the way its white markings seemed to absorb and reflect light, to the subtle shifts in its golden eyes as it tracked movement through the observation window. Dr. Rosewood stood at that window, watching as Aurora tended to her extraordinary family. The 5 normal cubs, perfect examples of grizzly bear newborns, clustered against their mother's warm fur. Among them, their remarkable sibling continued to display impossible levels of awareness and coordination, its very existence challenging everything she thought she knew about the natural world. In 30 years of wildlife medicine, she had learned to expect the unexpected, but nothing could have prepared her for this moment. The day's events would be studied, analyzed, and debated for years to come. Genetics experts would puzzle over the cub's unique characteristics. Evolutionary biologists would argue about its implications, and wildlife specialists would rethink everything they thought they knew about bear development. But in that moment, watching Aurora care for her extraordinary family, Dr. Rosewood understood that they had witnessed something beyond scientific explanation. A reminder that nature still held mysteries capable of leaving even the most experienced observers in awe. As the extraordinary events of the morning unfolded, Dr. Rosewood found her mind returning to the remarkable chain of circumstances that had brought Aurora to the center. The story had begun 4 months earlier, during one of Wyoming's most severe autumn storms in recorded history. Rangers Marcus Standing Bear and Emily Hawthorne had been conducting routine thermal vent inspections when they encountered something that defied explanation. "I've been working these grounds for 20 years, Marcus had reported, his usually stoic demeanor shaken as he radioed for emergency support. "Never seen anything like it. The bear was unconscious near Old Faithful, but all the snow in a perfect circle around her had melted." The thermal imaging equipment they carried had shown something even more puzzling. Despite lying in the snow, Aurora's body temperature had been far below normal for a bear preparing for winter hibernation. Emily Hawthorne's field notes from that night revealed additional anomalies that had initially been dismissed but now took on new significance. The ground around Aurora had shown unusual crystalline formations that didn't match known mineral deposits from the thermal vents. More intriguingly, her notebook documented a series of lights in the sky that had been attributed to Aurora borealis activity, though such displays were rare in Wyoming. Dr. Rosewood remembered the controversy that erupted when the decision was made to bring Aurora to the center. Wildlife protocol typically advised minimal intervention, allowing nature to take its course. But something about the bear's condition had compelled Marcus to push for emergency care. "There's more to this story," he had insisted, drawing on his Native American heritage and decades of wildlife experience. This bear was chosen for something important. The initial examination had revealed Aurora's pregnancy, but it was the sophisticated imaging results that had first hinted at something unprecedented. Dr. Chen had spent hours analyzing the ultrasound data, his expertise in ursine reproduction leading him to question everything he thought he knew. "The embryonic development patterns are unlike anything in our records," he had noted. "It's as if we're seeing accelerated evolution in real time." Sarah Martinez had been the first to notice the unusual electromagnetic readings emanating from Aurora's den. The sophisticated monitoring equipment regularly showed inexplicable spikes that coincided with the bear's sleep cycles. Technical experts had checked and rechecked the equipment, finding no malfunctions. The readings were real, but their source remained a mystery. The weeks leading up to the birth had brought a steady stream of unusual phenomena. Wildlife in the surrounding area had begun exhibiting strange behavioral patterns. Wolves, typically territorial with bears, had been observed maintaining a respectful perimeter around the center. Birds had altered their migration routes to pass directly over Aurora's den. Even the local plant life had shown unexplainable changes, with flowers blooming out of season near the facility's boundaries. Dr. Isabella Montenegro, upon reviewing the preliminary data from Europe, had immediately connected Aurora's case to ancient ursine legends found in multiple cultures. "There are stories," she had written in her initial response, "passed down through generations of indigenous peoples across continents, speaking of sacred bears that bridge the gap between the natural and supernatural worlds. Most fascinating is how these legends share common elements, despite having no historical contact between cultures." The center's security cameras had captured fascinating footage during Aurora's first months in residence. On nights with particularly active Aurora borealis, the bear's fur had seemed to shimmer with an inner light that defied scientific explanation. The phenomenon had been documented by multiple staff members, but defied every attempt at rational analysis. Dr. Rosewood's research team had discovered that Aurora's blood contained unique properties never before seen in ursine biology. The bear's cellular structure showed remarkable adaptability, with mitochondrial patterns that suggested enhanced energy processing capabilities. Most intriguingly, her DNA analysis had revealed sequences that didn't match any known genetic database. Local indigenous elders, led by Marcus's grandfather Joseph Standing Bear, had visited the center shortly after Aurora's arrival. Their reactions had been telling. Joseph had spent several hours in quiet observation before sharing ancient stories about guardian bears that emerged in times of great environmental significance. "The earth speaks through its creatures," he had said, "when humans are ready to listen." The scientific community had initially responded to the preliminary findings with skepticism. Dr. Margaret Whiteclaw, author of the definitive work on ursine reproduction, had demanded multiple verification protocols. Yet even she had been unable to explain the growing body of evidence suggesting that Aurora's pregnancy was something entirely unprecedented in recorded wildlife medicine. Environmental readings around Aurora's den had shown other inexplicable patterns. The air composition within a certain radius of her enclosure demonstrated higher oxygen content than the surrounding area. Plant growth in the vicinity had accelerated beyond normal rates. Even the water in her pool had shown unusual properties, maintaining perfect temperature stability regardless of external conditions. Dr. Chen's continuous monitoring had revealed that Aurora's cubs were developing at different rates even before birth. While 5 of the embryos had shown normal ursine development patterns, the 6th had exhibited growth rates that defied biological norms. "It's as if this one is operating under different natural laws," he had noted in his research logs. The center's atmospheric scientists had documented unusual weather patterns centered specifically around the facility. The storms that had swept through the region since Aurora's arrival showed distinct characteristics, often forming perfect circular patterns with the bear's den at the epicenter. Traditional meteorological models failed to explain these atmospheric anomalies. Sarah Martinez had established a unique bond with Aurora during the pre-birth months. The bear had shown unprecedented levels of trust with the wildlife nurse, allowing closer observation than would normally be possible with a pregnant wild bear. "It's like she knows she's part of something bigger," Sarah had written in her observation logs. "There's an intelligence in her eyes that goes beyond normal animal awareness." As winter had deepened, Aurora's den had become a focal point for unexplained phenomena. Staff members reported unusual dreams after working shifts near her enclosure. Visiting researchers spoke of feeling a deep sense of connection to the natural world while observing her. Even the most skeptical scientists found themselves affected by what they termed the Aurora phenomenon. The center's extensive documentation provided a clear timeline of escalating anomalies. Equipment malfunctions had occurred in distinct patterns, always centered around Aurora's nighttime activities. Electronic devices near her den had exhibited unusual behavior, with batteries draining and recharging without explanation. The facility's backup generators had activated multiple times, despite no power interruptions. Dr. Rosewood's personal journals from this period revealed her growing awareness that they were witnessing something beyond the scope of conventional wildlife medicine. Her decades of experience had taught her to trust her instincts, and everything about Aurora's case suggested they were on the brink of a discovery that would challenge their understanding of natural law. The international scientific community had responded to the mounting evidence with a mixture of fascination and disbelief. Research institutions around the world had requested access to Aurora's data, leading to unprecedented collaboration across disciplines. Experts in fields ranging from genetics to quantum physics had begun examining the case, each finding elements that defied explanation within their specialties. Traditional wildlife medicine protocols had proven inadequate for Aurora's unique case. The center had been forced to develop new monitoring techniques, combining cutting-edge technology with observational methods suggested by indigenous wisdom. This synthesis of modern science and traditional knowledge had yielded insights that neither approach could have achieved alone. As Dr. Rosewood reflected on these months of preparation and observation, she understood that every unprecedented detail had been leading to this moment. The strange circumstances of Aurora's discovery, the unusual readings, the unprecedented pregnancy, All of it had been building toward the extraordinary birth they had just witnessed. Yet somehow, even with all the signs and warnings, nothing could have truly prepared them for the reality of that sixth cub. The story of Aurora's journey to the center had become more than just a medical case study. It had evolved into a testament to the mysteries still present in the natural world. In an age where humans often assumed they had unraveled all of nature's secrets, Aurora and her extraordinary cubs stood as living proof that the world still held wonders beyond scientific understanding. The birth of Aurora's first 5 cubs unfolded like a masterclass in wildlife medicine, each moment revealing new insights into the mysteries of nature. Dr. Rosewood maintained a careful vigil as the process began, her experienced eyes catching subtle details that would prove crucial to understanding the extraordinary events that followed. The first contractions had started just as the winter storm reached its peak, as if nature itself had orchestrated the perfect moment. The initial cub arrived with the dawn, its entry into the world marked by Aurora's deep, reassuring growls. Despite the complexity of a multiple birth, the massive grizzly displayed remarkable calm, her movements deliberate and purposeful. Dr. Chen's monitoring equipment captured every detail, recording vital signs that would later provide invaluable data for wildlife research institutions worldwide. First cub showing strong vital signs, Sarah Martinez announced, her voice steady as she documented each measurement. Weight 1, 2 pounds, respiratory rate normal, heart rate steady. The tiny bear, still wet from birth, already displayed the robust health that would characterize all 5 of the initial cubs. Its dark fur, typical of grizzly newborns, glistened under the carefully calibrated lighting of the birthing den. The second cub followed within hours, its arrival accompanied by a subtle change in Aurora's vocalizations. Dr. Rosewood noted how the mother bear adjusted her position to better care for both cubs while preparing for the next birth. She's displaying unprecedented awareness of the multiple birth process, Dr. Chen observed, his scientific detachment briefly giving way to wonder. The atmosphere in the observation room grew more charged with each successful birth. Wildlife specialists from across the center gathered to witness the extraordinary event, their collective expertise focused on documenting every aspect of what was already becoming a historically significant occurrence. The third cub arrived just before noon, its birth marked by a momentary brightening of the Aurora Borealis, visible through breaks in the storm clouds. There's something remarkable about their synchronization, Dr. Montenegro commented via video link from her flight somewhere over the Atlantic. The renowned expert had been analyzing the live feed since the first contractions began. The timing between births shows a pattern that suggests more than just biological processes at work. The fourth cub's arrival coincided with a peculiar phenomenon that the center's atmospheric scientists would later spend months trying to explain. The swirling snow outside the observation windows briefly formed perfect circular patterns, visible on the center's security cameras. Inside the birthing den, Aurora's movements took on an almost ritualistic quality, each motion seemingly choreographed to some ancient rhythm only she could hear. As the fifth cub emerged into the carefully controlled environment of the birthing den, the assembled team believed they were witnessing the culmination of an already historic event. 5 healthy cubs from a single mother represented a biological feat that would have been celebrated in scientific journals and wildlife documentaries for years to come. But nature had greater mysteries in store. Throughout the births, Aurora displayed a level of maternal competence that amazed even the most experienced wildlife specialists. Each cub was immediately cleaned and positioned optimally for nursing, despite the increasing complexity of managing multiple newborns. Her movements suggested not just instinct, but a deeper understanding of the extraordinary situation. "Look at how she's arranging them," Sarah pointed out, gesturing to the careful way Aurora positioned each cub. "There's a deliberate pattern to it, almost like she's preparing space for something." The observation would later prove prophetic, though none of them could have guessed its significance at the time. The 5 cubs, each one perfect in its own right, showed remarkable vigor from the moment of birth. Their collective weight and health measurements exceeded all normal parameters for multiple births in bears. Dr. Chen's preliminary analysis suggested that rather than sharing limited prenatal resources, each cub had somehow received optimal nutrition and development support. These readings indicate something unprecedented in terms of maternal resource distribution, he explained, pointing to graphs displaying various metabolic indicators. It's as if Aurora's body developed enhanced capabilities specifically to support this multiple birth. The implications for understanding ursine reproduction were staggering, even before considering what was yet to come. The storm outside seemed to respond to each successful birth, its intensity waxing and waning in perfect synchronization with Aurora's efforts. The center's meteorological equipment recorded wind patterns that defied conventional weather models, creating what one scientist described as atmospheric harmonics centered around the birthing den. Local wildlife also appeared to react to the unfolding events. The center's external cameras captured footage of wolves gathering at the perimeter of the property, their behavior notably different from typical pack movements. Birds circled in, formations that seemed to mirror the arrangement of cubs in Aurora's den. Even the resident elk herd, normally wary of bear activity, gathered in unusual patterns visible from the observation room's windows. Dr. Rosewood found herself thinking of Joseph Standing Bear's words during his visit months earlier. The elder had spoken of times when the natural world would align to witness significant events, describing ancient stories of animals gathering as witnesses to moments of great importance. At the time, she had appreciated the cultural perspective while maintaining scientific skepticism. Now, watching the extraordinary behavior of the local wildlife, she felt her understanding of natural law expanding. The 5 cubs, each one a miracle of biological perfection, began to display synchronized breathing patterns that caught the attention of the medical team. Their tiny bodies rose and fell in perfect rhythm, creating what the monitoring equipment registered as a harmonic frequency. Dr. Chen's attempts to explain this phenomenon within known parameters of newborn behavior fell short. Their collective, vital signs are creating patterns that shouldn't be possible, he admitted, reviewing the data streaming across his screens. It's as if they're operating as a single organism while maintaining individual biological functions. The observation added another layer to the growing mystery surrounding Aurora's extraordinary delivery. As the team began their initial health assessments of the 5 cubs, they discovered more unusual characteristics. Each cub showed slightly different but complementary traits. One displayed exceptional muscle tone, another demonstrated advanced neurological responses, while a third exhibited unprecedented lung capacity. Together, they represented a spectrum of enhanced capabilities that suggested deliberate biological optimization. It's almost like they're specialized components of a larger system, Dr. Montenegro observed during one of her video consultations. Each one perfect in its own right, but also part of something greater. Her words would prove remarkably prescient in light of what was to come. The hours following the fifth birth brought a false sense of completion to the observation room. Standard protocols for multiple births were followed, documentation was updated, and preliminary reports were prepared for various research institutions. The team's excitement over the successful delivery of 5 healthy cubs led them to miss subtle signs that Aurora's extraordinary journey was not yet complete. Looking back, Dr. Rosewood would recognize dozens of indicators that something more was coming. The way Aurora arranged her cubs in a perfect pentagonal pattern, leaving a space that seemed deliberately preserved. The unusual harmonics recorded by the center's sophisticated monitoring equipment. The persistent anomalies in local magnetic field readings that the technical team had attributed to storm interference. Most telling was Aurora's continued state of active awareness. Typically, after multiple births, bear mothers would enter a period of deep rest while their cubs nursed. Aurora remained alert, her massive body still humming with purpose and energy. Her occasional glances toward the observation window seemed to carry knowing significance, as if she was aware that her audience needed to witness what was about to unfold. The center's extensive documentation of the 5 births would later provide crucial context for understanding the remarkable events that followed. Each perfectly healthy cub, each successful nursing attachment, each synchronized breath, all of it served as foundation for something even more extraordinary. Nature had orchestrated a demonstration of conventional perfection before revealing its most astonishing miracle. As the team began settling into what they thought was post-birth observation mode, Aurora's behavior shifted subtly. Her gentle cleaning of the 5 cubs took on a new rhythm, and her vocalizations changed to something none of the experts had heard before. The monitoring equipment, still running at full capacity, began detecting readings that would soon challenge everything. They thought they knew about wildlife medicine. The 5 cubs, arranged in their mysterious pattern, grew unusually still, as if they too were waiting for something momentous. The storm outside intensified once again, and the aurora borealis, visible through breaks in the clouds, took on colors that defied description. In that moment of apparent completion, nature prepared to reveal that the true miracle of Aurora's extraordinary delivery was yet to come. The first sign that something extraordinary was about to unfold came not from Aurora herself, but from the 5 cubs nestled against her fur. Their synchronized breathing pattern, which had fascinated the medical team earlier, suddenly shifted into a new rhythm. The change was so subtle that only Dr. Rosewood's decades of experience allowed her to notice it. The cubs' collective heartbeats began to pulse in a sequence that seemed to resonate with the very air in the birthing den. "Something's happening," Sarah Martinez whispered, her eyes fixed on the monitoring equipment. The sophisticated sensors were detecting energy patterns that defied conventional explanation. The air around Aurora's massive form began to shimmer with an ethereal quality that none of the center's cameras could quite capture, though everyone in the observation room could see it clearly. Dr. Chen's hands flew across his tablet as he documented the impossible readings flooding his screens. These energy signatures, they're unlike anything we've ever recorded in any living organism. The usually composed scientist's voice trembled with barely contained excitement. It's as if the cubs are generating some kind of coherent energy field. Outside the center, the storm that had been raging since dawn suddenly fell into an unnatural stillness. The swirling snow suspended in midair, creating a dome of perfect calm above the facility. Through gaps in the clouds, the Aurora Borealis blazed with unprecedented intensity, its colors shifting through spectrums that shouldn't have been possible at their latitude. Aurora's massive body tensed with a new kind of contraction, different from anything they had observed during the previous births. Her powerful muscles rippled with purpose, but instead of showing signs of distress, she seemed to be entering an almost meditative state. The 5 cubs, still arranged in their mysterious pattern, began emitting a soft, pulsing glow that the cameras somehow failed to record, but every human eye could perceive. "This is impossible," Dr. Montenegro breathed through the video link, her flight now circling the airport in a holding pattern as she refused to look away from her screen. "The energy readings we're getting, they're showing patterns that match ancient petroglyphs found in bear worship sites across multiple continents." Joseph Standing Bear's words from months earlier echoed in Dr. Rosewood's mind. When the sacred bear appears, the very fabric of nature will shift to welcome what comes next. At the time, she had attributed his words to cultural mythology. Now, watching the laws of physics seemingly bend around Aurora's birthing den, she began to understand the deeper truth in the elders' wisdom. The center's geological sensors began detecting subtle vibrations emanating from deep within the earth. The frequency matched no known seismic pattern, instead creating what one researcher described as a harmonic resonance with the energy field surrounding Aurora and her cubs. The sophisticated equipment throughout the facility began generating readings that would later take teams of scientists years to analyze. Dr. Rosewood found herself gripping the observation window ledge as Aurora's breathing shifted into the unmistakable pattern of active labor. "This can't be happening," she whispered, her scientific mind struggling to process what her senses were telling her. "We documented 5 cubs. We confirmed the completion of delivery. This should be physiologically impossible." But Aurora's body told a different story. The massive grizzly's muscles contracted with renewed purpose, her movements taking on an almost ceremonial quality. The 5 cubs, still glowing with that inexplicable light, moved in perfect synchronization to create a space in their formation, as if they had been waiting for this moment since birth. The monitoring equipment began registering readings that sent the technical team into a frenzy of activity. Aurora's body temperature fluctuated in patterns that should have been fatal, yet she showed no signs of distress. Her heartbeat established a rhythm that matched no known biological process, creating what appeared to be a quantum resonance with both her cubs and the Earth itself. "Look at these brainwave patterns," Dr. Chen called out, his voice filled with wonder. The neural activity displays showed synchronized oscillations between Aurora, her cubs, and some unknown external source. The sophisticated equipment designed to monitor bear biology was recording something that seemed to transcend the boundaries of conventional science. Sarah Martinez, checking the vital sign monitors, reported readings that defied explanation. "Her metabolism has shifted into a state we've never seen before. It's as if her entire biological system is operating under different natural laws." The veteran wildlife nurse's trained composure cracked as she watched the numbers on her screens rewrite everything she thought she knew about mammalian physiology. Through the observation window, the team watched as Aurora's massive form began to emit the same ethereal glow they had observed in her cubs. The light seemed to pulse in harmony with the aurora borealis visible through the storm-wrapped sky, creating patterns that reminded Dr. Rosewood of ancient cave paintings depicting celestial events. The center's power grid fluctuated in response to the growing energy field, forcing emergency systems to engage, yet none of the sophisticated medical equipment monitoring Aurora showed any signs of malfunction. Instead, they recorded data that would later cause leading physicists to question fundamental assumptions about the relationship between biological systems and natural forces. Dr. Montenegro, still watching through her video link, began rapidly correlating the unfolding events with ancient records from indigenous cultures around the world. The patterns we're seeing, they match descriptions in prehistoric art of something called the Great Bearer, a mythological being said to bridge the gap between earthly and celestial forces. Local wildlife continued to respond to the growing phenomenon. The wolves that had gathered at the center's perimeter began a haunting chorus that seemed to harmonize with Aurora's increasingly otherworldly vocalizations. Birds circled in formations that precisely mirrored the energy patterns being recorded by the center's equipment. Even the plants in the facility's greenhouse began exhibiting unprecedented bioluminescence. As Aurora's contractions intensified, the very air in the observation room seemed to thicken with potential. The team watched in awe as the laws of nature they had studied their entire careers seemed to flex and bend around the extraordinary event unfolding before them. Dr. Rosewood felt a deep understanding that they were witnessing something that would force humanity to re-evaluate its place in the natural world. The 5 cubs, their bodies still pulsing with that mysterious light, began vocalizing in a sequence that created what the audio equipment registered as a perfect harmonic progression. Their tiny forms moved with impossible coordination, maintaining their pentagonal formation while seemingly preparing for something momentous. Aurora's powerful body tensed in what the monitoring equipment confirmed was active labor, though everything they knew about ursine biology said this should be impossible. The massive grizzly's fur rippled with waves of that ethereal energy as she prepared to challenge everything known about natural law. Joseph's standing bear's voice echoed again in Dr. Rosewood's memory. The sacred bear comes not just to bring new life, but to awaken humanity to the deeper mysteries of existence. As she watched Aurora prepare for what should have been impossible, the veterinarian finally understood that they were witnessing not just a biological event, but a moment of transcendent significance in the relationship between humans and the natural world. The storm outside had transformed into something beautiful and terrifying, a perfect spiral of snow and light centered above the facility. The aurora borealis painted the sky with colors that defied description, its patterns matching the energy signatures emanating from Aurora's birthing den. Nature itself seemed to be holding its breath, waiting to reveal something beyond human understanding. As the moment of truth approached, Dr. Rosewood felt a profound shift in her scientific perspective. In all her years of wildlife medicine, she had approached nature as something to be studied and understood through careful observation and analysis. Now, watching the impossible unfold before her, she realized that perhaps the greatest scientific achievement was learning to recognize, when to set aside preconceptions and simply witness the mysteries that the natural world still held. The moment the 6th cub emerged, time itself seemed to pause in reverence. Every piece of monitoring equipment in the facility simultaneously registered readings so extraordinary that several systems initiated emergency recalibration protocols. Dr. Rosewood's world narrowed to a single point of focus as she witnessed something that would forever change humanity's understanding of the natural world. The cub's first breath released a pulse of energy that rippled through the observation room, causing the reinforced windows to vibrate in harmonic resonance. Unlike its 5 siblings, whose entries into the world had followed the beautiful but familiar patterns of nature, this birth transcended the boundary between the known and the impossible. "Dear God," Dr. Chen whispered, his tablet slipping from suddenly nerveless fingers. The device clattered to the floor, its screen still displaying readings that defied every known law of biology. No one moved to retrieve it. Every eye in the observation room remained fixed on what had just emerged into their world. The cub's size alone challenged everything they knew about ursine development. While its siblings had been robust examples of newborn bears, this creature was nearly twice their size, yet showed no signs of developmental stress. Its proportions were perfect, as if nature had decided to rewrite the rules of physical possibility, just for this moment. But it was the cub's appearance that truly defied explanation. Instead of the dark fur typical of grizzly newborns, its coat shimmered with patterns of light that seemed to flow like liquid starlight across its body. The markings shifted and changed with each movement, creating designs that reminded Dr. Rosewood of astronomical phenomena, nebulae, galaxies, and cosmic dance of celestial bodies. The patterns! Dr. Montenegro gasped through the video link, her voice trembling with excitement. They match the star charts found in ancient bear cult. Caves across 3 continents. But these aren't just similar. They're moving, evolving, telling a story we're only beginning to understand. The cub's eyes, which should have remained closed for weeks after birth, were already open and alert. Their color defied description. Not just the golden hue they had glimpsed earlier, but an ever-shifting spectrum that seemed to contain entire universes within their depths. Those eyes moved with impossible awareness, focusing on each observer in turn with an intelligence that transcended mere animal consciousness. Sarah Martinez, working to document every incredible detail, reported readings that caused her professional composure to crack. The cub's body temperature is fluctuating in patterns that match the energy signatures we detected in the Aurora borealis. Its heartbeat. It's creating some kind of quantum resonance with both the Earth's magnetic field and its siblings' vital signs. The mysterious symbols on the cub's paws, initially mistaken for simple markings, began to pulse with an inner light that the center's most sophisticated cameras somehow failed to properly capture. Dr. Chen, examining the preliminary images, realized the patterns formed a complex mathematical sequence that seemed to describe fundamental constants of the universe. "These aren't just markings," he breathed, his scientific skepticism giving way to wonder. "They're equations, describing everything from the golden ratio to quantum entanglement, but they're not static. They're evolving, solving themselves before our eyes." The implications sent shockwaves through the assembled team. This wasn't just an unusual animal birth. It was as if nature itself had decided to reveal some of its deepest mysteries. Aurora's interaction with her extraordinary offspring added another layer to the unfolding miracle. The massive grizzly showed none of the confusion one might expect when faced with such an unusual cub. Instead, her movements displayed a ceremonial quality, As if she had been preparing for this moment throughout her extraordinary pregnancy, the 5 normal cubs, arranged in their perfect pentagonal formation, began moving in synchronized patterns around their remarkable sibling. The monitoring equipment recorded energy transfers between all 6 cubs that created what one researcher described as a biological quantum computer, a living system operating on principles that transcended conventional physics. The cubs' vocalizations defied analysis by the center's sophisticated audio equipment. Instead of the expected mewling of a newborn bear, it produced sounds that seemed to exist in multiple harmonics simultaneously. The effect was both beautiful and unsettling, creating patterns that resonated with something deep in the human psyche. "Those sounds," Joseph Standing Bear said softly, having arrived moments after the birth. "Our oldest stories speak of them. The voice that bridges worlds, that reminds humans of their connection to the greater mysteries of existence." The elder's presence added a layer of ancient wisdom to the modern scientific wonder unfolding. Before them, Dr. Rosewood observed how the extraordinary cub moved with impossible grace for a newborn. Its muscles displayed a level of coordination that should have taken months to develop, yet each movement seemed perfectly natural, as if it were following a choreography written into the very fabric of reality. The cub's fur continued to shift and flow with patterns that seemed to respond to the thoughts and emotions of those observing it. When Dr. Chen approached the window with scientific curiosity, the markings resolved into complex mathematical formulas. When Sarah watched with nurturing concern, they formed soothing waves of light that somehow conveyed comfort and reassurance. "Look at the cellular structure," Dr. Montenegro directed, analyzing the preliminary data being transmitted to her tablet. The cub's biology appeared to operate on principles that unified quantum mechanics with organic life in ways theoretical. Physicists had only dreamed possible. Each cell seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously, yet worked in perfect harmony with the whole. The observation room had filled with an elite team of wildlife specialists, each drawn by urgent calls about something unprecedented. Every new arrival followed the same progression: initial skepticism, followed by shocked disbelief, and finally a kind of reverent wonder as they witnessed something that would force humanity to reevaluate its understanding of life itself. Aurora's gentle cleaning of her extraordinary offspring revealed more impossible features with each passing moment. The cub's skeletal structure, visible through the advanced imaging equipment, showed configurations that suggested capabilities far beyond normal ursine limitations. Yet everything about its form was perfectly balanced, as if evolution had achieved a new level of optimization. The storm outside had transformed into a phenomenon that defied meteorological explanation. The swirling snow and aurora borealis created patterns that precisely matched the markings flowing across the cub's fur. The local wildlife, still gathered in unprecedented numbers around the facility, maintained their vigil with a purpose that spoke of deep natural connections. Dr. Chen's preliminary genetic analysis revealed something that would revolutionize our understanding of DNA. The cub's genetic code contained sequences that seemed to adapt and evolve in real time, suggesting possibilities that would keep geneticists theorizing for generations to come. Yet somehow, these impossible modifications appeared completely stable and natural. "We're witnessing more than just an unusual birth," Dr. Rosewood realized, watching the extraordinary cub interact with its environment in ways that challenged everything she thought she knew about newborn behavior. "This is nature showing us," that our understanding of reality barely scratches the surface of what's possible. The implications of what they were witnessing began to sink in. This wasn't just a scientific curiosity or biological anomaly. It was a moment of transformation in humanity's relationship with the natural world. The cub's existence suggested possibilities that bridged the gap between science and the deeper mysteries that had inspired human wonder since the dawn of consciousness. As the team worked to document every incredible aspect of this extraordinary being, they became aware that they were part of something greater than their individual scientific disciplines could explain. The cub's presence seemed to awaken something in each observer, a recognition of the profound connections between all living things and the vast mysteries that still waited to be discovered. Aurora watched over her remarkable family with serene confidence, her massive form radiating a sense of purpose that transcended normal animal awareness. She had become more than just a mother bear. She was a gateway through which nature had chosen to reveal new possibilities to human understanding. Her extraordinary sixth cub represented not just a biological miracle, but a bridge between what humanity thought it knew and what remained to be discovered in the vast spectrum of natural wonder. The next 48 hours unleashed a whirlwind of scientific activity as researchers worked to document and understand the extraordinary being that had emerged into their world. Dr. Rosewood established a round-the-clock observation schedule, with teams of specialists rotating through the facility in carefully coordinated shifts. Each new observation seemed to unlock deeper mysteries about the remarkable sixth cub. The first comprehensive physical examination, conducted through non-invasive monitoring to avoid disturbing the delicate family bond, revealed characteristics that defied conventional biology. Dr. Chen's sophisticated imaging equipment captured the cub's internal structure in unprecedented detail, showing adaptations that shouldn't have been possible in any terrestrial creature. "The skeletal density readings are extraordinary," he reported, gesturing to three-dimensional holograms floating above his workstation. "The bone structure shows a crystalline matrix we've never seen in any living organism. It's simultaneously lighter and stronger than traditional bone, with properties that suggest capabilities we haven't even begun to understand." The cub's cardiovascular system proved equally remarkable. Instead of the standard four-chamber heart, typical of mammals, advanced scanning revealed a complex structure that seemed to operate on principles closer to quantum mechanics than traditional biology. Each heartbeat created ripples of energy that resonated with both its siblings and the surrounding environment in ways that challenged existing scientific paradigms. "Look at these cellular formations," Dr. Montenegro marveled, now present in person after landing at the nearest airport and being helicoptered directly to the facility. Her expertise in comparative biology brought new perspectives to the ongoing analysis. "The mitochondrial structures are unlike anything we've ever documented. They're not just processing energy, they're somehow generating it through what appears to be a biological form of quantum tunneling." Sarah Martinez's detailed observations of the cub's behavior patterns revealed capabilities that transcended normal development timelines. While typical bear cubs remained relatively inactive for weeks after birth, this extraordinary being displayed levels of awareness and coordination that should have been impossible in any newborn creature. "The neurological readings are off the charts," she noted, reviewing data from the facility's most sensitive monitoring equipment. The synaptic activity suggests a level of consciousness that goes beyond what we typically associate with even adult animals. It's as if the cub is operating on multiple levels of awareness simultaneously. The mysterious markings that flowed across the cub's fur continued to captivate researchers from various disciplines. Dr. Rosewood had called in Dr. Amara Patel, a leading expert in bioluminescence, to study the unprecedented phenomena. Her preliminary findings suggested mechanisms that could revolutionize our understanding of how living organisms interact with light and energy. These patterns aren't just superficial coloration, Dr. Patel explained, her specialized equipment capturing subtle variations in the shifting displays. They appear to be a form of biological quantum display, capable of processing and transmitting information in ways we previously thought impossible. The implications for fields ranging from computing to consciousness studies are staggering. The cub's interactions with its 5 siblings revealed another layer of extraordinary capabilities. The normal cubs, themselves remarkable examples of healthy bear development, seemed to respond to their unusual sibling with an innate understanding that transcended typical animal behavior. Together, they created what the monitoring equipment registered as a complex network of energy exchanges. It's as if they're forming a living communication matrix, Dr. Chen observed, watching the interplay of energy patterns between all 6 cubs. The 6th cub appears to act as some kind of focal point or translator, but the entire system operates with a sophistication that suggests purposes we're only beginning to glimpse. The impact on the local environment continued to provide new avenues for research. The facility's botanical research team, led by Dr. Maya Wilson, documented unprecedented growth patterns in the surrounding vegetation. Plants within a certain radius of the birthing den exhibited accelerated development and unusual properties that defied conventional explanation. The photosynthetic processes we're observing are revolutionary, Dr. Wilson reported, examining samples under advanced microscopes. These plants are achieving energy conversion rates that should be theoretically impossible. Something about the cub's presence is fundamentally altering the way living systems interact with energy at a quantum level. Aurora's role in these extraordinary developments proved equally fascinating. The mother bear's behavior suggested a level of awareness and purpose that challenged traditional understanding of animal consciousness. Her interactions with the 6th cub followed patterns that seemed to reference ancient natural rhythms, creating what one researcher described as a living library of biological wisdom. Watch how she positions herself relative to the Earth's magnetic field, Dr. Montenegro pointed out during one observation session. Her movements aren't random. They're creating geometric patterns that match sacred geometries found in ancient cultures across the world. It's as if she's participating in some kind of natural ceremony we're only now learning to recognize. The facility's advanced genetic sequencing equipment worked around the clock, analyzing DNA samples collected from shed fur and tiny drops of fluid. The results forced researchers to reconsider fundamental assumptions about how genetic information could be stored and expressed in living organisms. The genetic structure we're seeing shouldn't be possible, Dr. Chen admitted, reviewing the latest analysis. It's not just complex, it's adaptive, responding to environmental inputs in real time. Through mechanisms we don't yet understand, this could revolutionize our entire approach to genetic medicine and evolutionary biology. The cub's vocalizations became the subject of intense study by Dr. Jerome Kumar, a specialist in bioacoustics. His sophisticated audio analysis revealed patterns that suggested capabilities far beyond normal animal communication. These vocalizations operate on multiple frequency levels simultaneously, he explained, displaying complex waveform analyses. Some of the harmonics extend into ranges that shouldn't be biologically possible to produce or perceive, yet we're seeing clear evidence of structured communication occurring across these impossible spectrums. The impact on the scientific community continued to grow as preliminary findings circulated through secure channels. Research institutions around the world began redirecting resources and attention toward understanding the implications of what had been discovered in the Wyoming wilderness. We're not just documenting a unique biological specimen, Dr. Rosewood realized. Watching the extraordinary cub interact with its environment in ways that defied conventional understanding. We're witnessing the emergence of new possibilities in the relationship between consciousness, biology, and the fundamental forces of nature. The center's security teams work tirelessly to manage the growing interest from the outside world, while protecting the privacy and safety of Aurora and her remarkable family. News of something unprecedented had begun to leak, drawing attention from both scientific institutions and the general public. Joseph Standing Bear, who had maintained a quiet vigil since the birth, offered perspectives that bridged the gap between scientific observation and deeper wisdom. Our ancestors knew of beings like this, he shared during one quiet evening session. They understood that nature sometimes chooses to reveal greater truths through living embodiments of its mysteries. As the documentation continued, patterns emerged that suggested the sixth cub's existence represented more than just a biological anomaly. Its presence seemed to catalyze changes in how nearby living systems operated, as if it was some kind of natural catalyst for evolutionary advancement. The implications extended far beyond the immediate scientific discoveries. Researchers began to recognize that they were witnessing something that could fundamentally change humanity's understanding of life itself. The cub's existence challenged not just biological norms, but basic assumptions about what was possible in the natural world. Dr. Rosewood, reviewing the growing mountain of data, understood that they had been given an unprecedented opportunity to expand the boundaries of human knowledge. The sixth cub represented not just a unique specimen to be studied, but a window into deeper mysteries that had always existed in nature, waiting to be recognized and understood. Aurora's maternal behavior toward her extraordinary offspring revealed depths of animal consciousness that revolutionized scientific understanding of wildlife intelligence. The massive grizzly's interactions with her sixth cub transcended typical mother-child bonding, suggesting levels of awareness and purpose that challenged fundamental assumptions about animal cognition. Dr. Rosewood spent countless hours documenting the subtle nuances of their communication. Aurora had developed a unique set of vocalizations reserved exclusively for the unusual cub, creating what appeared to be a sophisticated language that incorporated both sound and subtle energy exchanges. These interactions produced measurable changes in the local electromagnetic field, suggesting communication occurring on multiple levels simultaneously. "Watch how she positions herself," Sarah Martinez observed during one particularly remarkable session. "She's not just protecting the cub, she's actively facilitating its interaction with the environment." Aurora's massive form moved with deliberate precision, creating geometric patterns that somehow enhanced the extraordinary energy signatures emanating from her unusual offspring. The mother bear's protective instincts had evolved into something far more complex than simple maternal care. She seemed to understand the profound significance of her sixth cub, developing behaviors that supported its unprecedented capabilities while maintaining perfect balance with its 5 siblings. Each movement, each gesture, carried purpose and wisdom that spoke of deeper natural connections. The level of sophistication in their interactions is extraordinary, Dr. Montenegro noted, reviewing footage of Aurora teaching the cubs complex behaviors. She's not just demonstrating survival skills, she's transmitting what appears to be ancient knowledge through some kind of energetic exchange we're only beginning to detect. The relationship between Aurora and her extraordinary cub influenced the entire family dynamic in fascinating ways. The 5 normal cubs, already remarkable in their own right, showed accelerated development and unexpected abilities when interacting with their unusual sibling under their mother's guidance. Aurora orchestrated these interactions with remarkable intelligence, creating what researchers began to recognize as carefully structured learning experiences. It's as if she's conducting a symphony of natural energies, Dr. Chen remarked, watching Aurora coordinate complex interactions between all 6 cubs. Each cub plays a specific role, with the 6th acting as some kind of catalyst for collective development. The sophisticated monitoring equipment recorded energy patterns that suggested the family unit was operating as a unified system rather than individual organisms. Aurora's nighttime behaviors proved especially fascinating. During the quiet hours when most of the research team had retired, she would engage in what appeared to be ritualistic movements with her extraordinary cub. These sessions, captured by infrared cameras, showed mother and cub generating synchronized energy patterns that matched ancient celestial alignments. The correlation with astronomical phenomena is undeniable, Dr. Patel confirmed, analyzing the nocturnal recordings. Their movements map perfectly to cosmic events, suggesting awareness of natural cycles that extends far beyond normal animal instincts. The implications of such sophisticated astronomical knowledge in a wild creature forced researchers to reevaluate their understanding of animal consciousness. The mother bear's ability to manage the complex needs of her unusual family revealed problem-solving capabilities that surpassed anything previously documented in wildlife studies. She developed innovative solutions for everything from temperature regulation to energy distribution among her cubs, displaying creativity and foresight that approached human-level intelligence. Look at how she's adapting her traditional nurturing behaviors, Sarah pointed out during one morning observation. She's essentially creating new patterns of maternal care to accommodate capabilities we didn't even know were possible in living organisms. Aurora's innovations suggested conscious adaptation rather than mere instinctive response. The facility's atmospheric scientists noticed that Aurora seemed able to influence local weather patterns through her interactions with the 6th cub. During their more intense bonding sessions, the storm systems that had persisted since the birth would shift and change in response to their activities, suggesting connections between consciousness and natural forces that defied conventional explanation. Joseph Standing Bear, Observing these phenomena through the lens of ancestral wisdom offered insights that helped bridge the gap between scientific observation and deeper understanding. "The mother bear has always been a teacher in our traditions," he explained. "What you're seeing is not just animal behavior, it's a demonstration of natural wisdom that has existed since the beginning of time." Aurora's careful attention to the sixth cub's unique needs never came at the expense of her other offspring. She developed a remarkable system of care that ensured each cub received exactly what it required for optimal development. This displayed a level of resource management and emotional intelligence that challenged existing theories about animal cognitive capabilities. "She's not just raising cubs," Dr. Rosewood realized, watching Aurora orchestrate another complex interaction session. "She's guiding the development of something that could change our understanding of life itself." The veterinarian had never seen such purposeful behavior in any animal, let alone one managing such extraordinary circumstances. The mother bear's vocalizations during these teaching sessions captured the attention of Dr. Kumar's bioacoustics team. Their analysis revealed sophisticated patterns that suggested deliberate transmission of complex information. "These aren't just instinctive calls," he explained, displaying the intricate waveforms. "They contain structured data that appears to encode specific knowledge or instructions." Aurora's physical movements during her interactions with the cubs created geometric patterns that matched those found in ancient sacred sites around the world. Dr. Montenegro, correlating the footage with archaeological records, discovered perfect matches with symbols found in bear worship caves dating back thousands of years. "The precision is impossible to dismiss as coincidence," she reported, overlaying the movement patterns with ancient drawings. "Somehow, this mother bear is accessing and expressing knowledge that connects directly to humanity's earliest understanding of natural law." The implications suggested a coherent system of natural wisdom that had existed long before human civilization. The facility's botanical research team discovered that Aurora seemed able to identify and utilize specific plants for different purposes, showing knowledge of natural medicine that exceeded known animal capabilities. She would carefully select certain herbs and flowers from those growing near the den, using them in specific ways to support her cubs' development. "Her understanding of plant properties is unprecedented," Dr. Wilson noted, analyzing samples of the vegetation Aurora had chosen. "She's identifying and applying natural compounds in ways that optimize their biochemical effects. This suggests comprehension of complex chemistry that shouldn't be possible in any animal." The mother bear's awareness extended beyond her immediate family to include sophisticated interaction with the local ecosystem. She developed complex relationships with other wildlife in the area, creating what appeared to be a cooperative network that supported her cubs' development. Wolves, birds, and even insects seemed to respond to her subtle communications, participating in ways that suggested conscious collaboration rather than coincidence. Through all these extraordinary demonstrations of maternal intelligence, Aurora maintained a sense of serene purpose that impressed even the most skeptical observers. Her calm confidence in managing such unprecedented circumstances suggested levels of awareness that transcended traditional scientific understanding of animal consciousness. We're witnessing something that challenges our most basic assumptions about the relationship between intelligence, instinct, and natural wisdom, Dr. Rosewood concluded. watching Aurora guide another sophisticated learning session with her cubs. This mother bear isn't just caring for unusual offspring. She's demonstrating capabilities that force us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about the potential of life itself. The implications of Aurora's extraordinary maternal behavior extended far beyond wildlife medicine. Her demonstration of advanced problem-solving, sophisticated communication, and apparent access to ancient natural wisdom suggested possibilities that could revolutionize human understanding of consciousness and its role in the natural world. As the research team continued to document these remarkable interactions, they began to recognize that Aurora represented more than just an unusually intelligent animal. She had become a bridge between human scientific understanding and deeper natural mysteries, her careful guidance of her extraordinary family opening windows into possibilities that had always existed in nature, waiting to be rediscovered by those ready to see them. As news of the extraordinary birth spread through the scientific community, the Yellowstone Wildlife Emergency Care Center became a convergence point for some of the world's leading experts. Dr. Rosewood watched as her facility transformed into an unprecedented collaboration of minds from diverse fields, each bringing unique perspectives to help understand the remarkable events they were witnessing. Dr. Isabella Montenegro, having finally arrived from Europe, brought decades of experience studying evolutionary anomalies in large mammals. Her initial examination of the data left her visibly moved. "In 30 years of research," she declared, her voice trembling with emotion, "I've never seen anything that so completely challenges our understanding of what's possible in nature. This isn't just unusual, it's revolutionary." The arrival of Dr. Marcus Blackwood, a renowned quantum physicist from MIT, added another layer of analysis to the ongoing research. His specialized equipment detected patterns of energy emanating from the sixth cub that suggested connections between biological systems and quantum mechanics that theoretical physicists had only dreamed possible. "The implications are staggering," he explained, reviewing data from his instruments. "This creature appears to be operating simultaneously on multiple quantum levels while maintaining perfect biological coherence. It's as if nature decided to demonstrate possibilities we thought existed only in advanced theoretical frameworks." Dr. Sarah Chen, sister of the center's Dr. James Chen and a leading expert in consciousness studies, brought perspectives that bridged the gap between hard science and more esoteric fields of research. Her observations of the cub's interactions with its environment suggested levels of awareness that transcended conventional understanding of animal consciousness. "We're not just witnessing advanced biology," she observed, documenting the cub's responses to various stimuli. "This being demonstrates forms of consciousness that integrate physical and quantum realms in ways we previously thought impossible. It's as if it exists as both particle and wave, matter and energy, simultaneously." The arrival of Dr. Amara Patel's complete bioluminescence research team from Stanford brought sophisticated new equipment for analyzing the cub's extraordinary light patterns. Their findings suggested mechanisms that could revolutionize fields ranging from optical computing to energy transmission. "The patterns we're observing aren't just visual phenomena," Dr. Patel reported, displaying complex 3D models of the cub's energy emissions. "They appear to be a form of biological quantum computing, processing and transmitting information through mechanisms we've only theorized about. The applications for future technology are almost beyond imagination." Dr. Elena Volkov, a pioneering researcher in interspecies communication, spent hours documenting the sophisticated exchanges between Aurora and her extraordinary offspring. Her analysis revealed layers of interaction that suggested possibilities for understanding animal intelligence in entirely new ways. The complexity of their communication goes far beyond anything we've documented in any species, she explained, sharing her preliminary findings. They're exchanging information not just through vocalizations and body language, but through quantum entanglement patterns that suggest consciousness operates on levels we're only beginning to understand. The arrival of Dr. Richard Standing, Bear, Joseph's son and a leading ethnobiologist, brought perspectives that helped bridge indigenous wisdom with modern scientific understanding. His work documenting traditional knowledge of sacred animals across cultures added crucial context to their observations. "What we're seeing here," he explained, correlating their findings with ancient records, matches descriptions found in indigenous traditions worldwide. These stories weren't just myths. They were attempts to describe natural phenomena that transcended the scientific understanding of their time. Dr. Maya Wilson's expanded botanical research team discovered that plants in the vicinity of the den were exhibiting unprecedented changes in their genetic structure. The implications for understanding evolution and adaptation sent ripples through the biological research community. "These plants aren't just growing differently," she reported, examining samples under advanced microscopes. "They're developing entirely new mechanisms for energy processing and information exchange. It's as if the cub's presence is catalyzing evolutionary leaps that should take thousands of generations." The arrival of Dr. Jerome Kumar's complete bioacoustics team allowed for more sophisticated analysis of the unique vocalizations produced by both Aurora and her extraordinary cub. Their findings suggested forms of sound-based communication that transcended known biological limitations. "The harmonics we're detecting operate across multiple dimensions of frequency," he explained, displaying complex wavefront analyses. "Some of these patterns suggest methods of information transfer that could revolutionize our understanding of both animal communication and data transmission technology." Dr. Margaret Whiteclaw, the world's foremost expert on ursine reproduction, arrived with a team of specialists in genetic analysis. Their preliminary findings suggested possibilities that could transform understanding of how life itself develops and evolves. "The genetic structures we're observing shouldn't be possible," she admitted, reviewing the latest sequencing data. "Yet they're stable and functional in ways that suggest entirely new mechanisms for biological organization and development. This could revolutionize everything from medical treatment to our understanding of evolution." The assembly of such diverse expertise led to unprecedented cross-disciplinary insights. Quantum physicists found themselves in deep discussion with wildlife behaviorists, while genetic researchers collaborated with experts in ancient cultural traditions. The synthesis of these varied perspectives began to create a more complete picture of the extraordinary being they were studying. "We're not just observing a unique animal," Dr. Rosewood realized, watching the various teams share their findings. "We're witnessing the emergence of possibilities that connect multiple fields of human knowledge. This discovery could bridge gaps between science and deeper wisdom that have existed for centuries." The implications extended far beyond individual fields of study. Each new observation suggested connections between different aspects of natural law that had previously been studied in isolation. The sixth cub's existence seemed to demonstrate principles that unified diverse areas of scientific understanding. Dr. Alexandra Ravens, a leading expert in electromagnetic field theory, arrived with specialized equipment for analyzing the unusual energy patterns surrounding the den. Her findings suggested mechanisms for energy transfer and information exchange that could transform understanding of both biological and physical systems. These field patterns shouldn't be possible according to our current understanding of physics, she reported, displaying complex visualizations of the energy flows. Yet they're stable and reproducible, suggesting natural laws we haven't yet recognized. The implications for energy science alone are revolutionary. The arrival of Dr. Thomas Windriver, an expert in environmental adaptation and wildlife behavior, brought new perspectives on how the extraordinary cub might influence broader ecosystem dynamics. His observations suggested possibilities for understanding natural systems as interconnected networks of consciousness and energy. What we're seeing here isn't just about one unusual animal, he explained, correlating data from multiple research teams. It's demonstrating principles of natural organization and adaptation that could transform our understanding of how ecosystems evolve and develop. As the assembled experts collaborated to understand the extraordinary being they were studying, their combined insights began to suggest possibilities that transcended traditional scientific boundaries. The sixth cub's existence seemed to demonstrate principles that could unite different fields of human knowledge in unprecedented ways. The synthesis of these diverse perspectives led to deeper understanding of how the remarkable cub might represent not just a biological anomaly, but a window into greater natural mysteries. Each team's findings contributed to a growing recognition that they were witnessing something that could fundamentally change human understanding of life itself. We're standing at a turning point in scientific history, Dr. Montenegro observed, watching the various teams share their discoveries. This being isn't just challenging our assumptions. It's showing us possibilities that could transform human knowledge across multiple fields simultaneously. The implications of their collective findings suggested that the extraordinary cub represented more than just an evolutionary breakthrough. Its existence demonstrated principles that could bridge gaps between different areas of human understanding, pointing toward deeper truths about the nature of life and consciousness itself. As word of the extraordinary birth began to spread beyond scientific circles, the Yellowstone Wildlife Emergency Care Center transformed its security protocols to protect this remarkable discovery. Dr. Rosewood worked closely with both government agencies and private security experts to create a comprehensive protection plan that would ensure the safety of Aurora and her cubs while allowing crucial research to continue. Chief of Security Michael Ironhawk, a veteran of wildlife protection with decades of experience, implemented a sophisticated multi-layer security system that incorporated both cutting-edge technology and traditional surveillance methods. What we're protecting here isn't just a unique animal, he explained during a briefing. It's potentially one of the most significant discoveries in natural history. The center's perimeter security underwent a complete overhaul. Advanced motion detection systems designed to differentiate between wildlife and human movement created an invisible barrier around the facility. These systems incorporated technology developed for protecting endangered species, modified to address the unique challenges posed by their extraordinary residents. Dr. Chen spearheaded the creation of a specialized data protection protocol to safeguard the growing volume of research information. Every piece of data we collect could be crucial to understanding this phenomenon, he emphasized, implementing multiple redundant backup systems. We're not just protecting current findings, we're preserving information that future generations might need to understand what we've witnessed. The documentation process itself evolved into an unprecedented collaborative effort. Teams of researchers worked in carefully coordinated shifts, ensuring that every moment of the cub's development was recorded from multiple perspectives. High-definition cameras, operating across various spectrums, captured details that human eyes might miss. Sarah Martinez developed a revolutionary system for organizing the massive amounts of observational data being generated. We're creating categories of information that didn't exist before, she explained, reviewing the complex database structure. Traditional wildlife documentation methods simply weren't designed to handle phenomena like this. The facility's communication systems underwent extensive upgrading to handle the secure transmission of sensitive data to verified research partners worldwide. Dr. Montenegro worked with cybersecurity experts to implement encryption protocols that would protect their findings while allowing necessary scientific collaboration. The challenge, she noted, is maintaining the perfect balance between security and accessibility. This discovery has implications for multiple fields of study, but we must ensure the information reaches only legitimate researchers. The system she helped design became a model for sharing sensitive scientific data. Local law enforcement, recognizing the historical significance of the discovery, partnered with the center to create an outer security perimeter. Sheriff Laura Redwing coordinated with both state and federal agencies to establish protocols for managing the growing public interest while maintaining the privacy necessary for research. We're not just providing physical security, she explained during a coordination meeting. We're helping protect something that could change our understanding of the natural world. That requires a different approach to law enforcement. Her team developed innovative methods for managing media attention without compromising the center's work. The documentation of the cub's development required new approaches to scientific record-keeping. Dr. Kumar's team designed audio recording, systems capable of capturing the full range of unusual vocalizations produced by both Aurora and her extraordinary offspring. We're recording frequencies that challenge our understanding of biological sound production, he reported, reviewing the sophisticated equipment setup. Dr. Patel's bioluminescence research team implemented specialized photographic techniques to capture the unique light patterns emanating from the sixth cub. Their documentation methods combined traditional wildlife photography with advanced quantum imaging technology, creating a new standard for recording biological phenomena that transcended normal physical parameters. These images aren't just records, she explained, displaying the remarkable results. They're windows into understanding how biological systems can interact with light and energy in ways we never thought possible. The photographs themselves became subjects of study, revealing patterns that suggested new principles of natural organization. The center's environmental monitoring systems underwent significant expansion to track the subtle changes occurring in the surrounding ecosystem. Dr. Wilson's botanical research team implemented a grid of sophisticated sensors to document the unprecedented plant growth and adaptation patterns they had observed. We're not just protecting the cubs, she emphasized, reviewing the environmental data. We're documenting what could be the early stages of accelerated ecosystem evolution. Understanding these changes could be crucial for future environmental science. The monitoring system she designed became a model for studying complex environmental interactions. Joseph Standing Bear worked with the security team to incorporate traditional wisdom into their protection protocols. His insights led to the implementation of observation methods that respected ancient spiritual boundaries while maintaining scientific rigor. True protection, he advised, requires understanding both the physical and spiritual aspects of what we're guarding. The facility's backup power systems received major upgrades to ensure continuous operation of all monitoring equipment. Dr. Ravens designed a power grid that could handle the unusual electromagnetic fluctuations associated with the sixth cub's presence while maintaining stable energy supply for sensitive research equipment. "We're not just providing power," she explained, reviewing the sophisticated system. "We're creating an environment that can adapt to phenomena we're still trying to understand." Her design incorporated principles of quantum field theory, creating new standards for scientific facility operation. The center's medical facilities underwent extensive modification to handle any potential emergency situations. Dr. Rosewood worked with wildlife medicine experts to develop protocols for providing care that could address unprecedented biological phenomena. "We have to be prepared for situations that defy conventional veterinary medicine," she noted, reviewing the enhanced emergency response procedures. The documentation of genetic samples required entirely new protocols. Dr. Whiteclaw established a sophisticated system for preserving and analyzing the unique biological materials they were collecting. These samples could contain information that transforms our understanding of life itself, she emphasized. Their preservation is crucial for future research. International scientific organizations contributed resources and expertise to ensure the protection and documentation of this unprecedented discovery. The resulting collaboration led to new standards for handling discoveries that challenged existing scientific paradigms. The center's weather monitoring systems expanded to track the unusual atmospheric phenomena associated with the cub's presence. Meteorologists worked with the research team to document weather patterns that defied conventional explanation, creating new models for understanding the relationship between biological systems and atmospheric conditions. As public interest grew, the center implemented a careful system for managing information release. Dr. Montenegro coordinated with science communication experts to develop methods for sharing their discoveries without compromising the research process or the cub's safety. "We're not just protecting physical specimens," she explained during a team briefing. "We're guarding something that could fundamentally change human understanding of life itself. That requires a new approach to both security and scientific documentation." The synthesis of these various protection and documentation systems created something unprecedented in scientific research. A facility capable of studying phenomena that challenged fundamental assumptions about natural law while maintaining the security and scientific rigor necessary for groundbreaking research. As the days passed, this comprehensive system proved its worth, allowing researchers to continue their crucial work while protecting both the physical safety and scientific integrity of their extraordinary discovery. Each new day brought observations that would have been impossible without the sophisticated infrastructure they had created. As midnight approached in the Yellowstone Wildlife Emergency Care Center, a profound stillness settled over the facility. Dr. Rosewood sat alone in the observation room, the soft glow of monitoring equipment providing the only illumination as she watched Aurora and her extraordinary family rest. The night shift maintained their vigil with quiet efficiency, but this moment belonged to reflection and wonder. Through the specialized glass, the veterinarian observed how the sixth cub's remarkable fur continued to shimmer with its own inner light, creating patterns that seemed to dance in harmony with the Aurora borealis visible through the observation windows. The phenomenon cast ethereal shadows that transformed the birthing den into something that felt both ancient and futuristic, a bridge between primal mysteries and emerging possibilities. 20 years of wildlife medicine, she whispered to herself, and nothing prepared me for this. Her hand moved automatically to her research journal, but instead of clinical observations, she found herself writing about the deeper implications of what they had witnessed. The quiet hours had always been her time for contemplating the greater mysteries of her work. The 5 normal cubs slept peacefully against their mother's warm fur, their breathing synchronized in a rhythm that the monitoring equipment registered as perfectly harmonious. But the 6th cub remained alertly aware, its impossible golden eyes reflecting depths of intelligence that challenged everything Dr. Rosewood thought she knew about consciousness in newborn creatures. Sarah Martinez entered silently, carrying fresh coffee and her own well-worn observation journal. The 2 women had developed a habit of sharing the midnight watch, finding that the quiet hours often revealed insights that might be missed in the busy activity of day. "Still trying to make sense of it all?" she asked softly, setting a steaming mug beside her colleague. "Every time I think I'm beginning to understand," Dr. Rosewood replied, "I notice something new that expands the mystery." She gestured toward the den, where the 6th cub had begun a series of movements that seemed to trace astronomical patterns in the air. "Look at that. It's mapping the current position of the Pleiades star cluster, despite having no way to see the sky." The sophisticated monitoring equipment continued its quiet documentation, recording energy patterns that defied conventional physics. During these night hours, the 6th cub often displayed abilities that seemed even more extraordinary than its daytime activities. Its consciousness appeared to expand, reaching out to connect with forces that existed beyond normal perception. The ancient stories speak of times like this. Joseph Standing Bear's voice came softly from the doorway. The elder often joined the night watch, his traditional wisdom providing perspectives that helped bridge the gap between scientific observation and deeper understanding. When the boundaries between worlds grow thin and nature chooses to reveal its greater mysteries. Through the observation window, they watched as Aurora gently nuzzled her extraordinary offspring. The massive grizzly's movements carried a ceremonial quality during these quiet hours, suggesting awareness of possibilities that transcended normal animal consciousness. Her interactions with the 6th cub seemed to follow patterns that matched ancient celestial cycles. Dr. Chen's sophisticated equipment recorded energy exchanges that created beautiful mathematical patterns across his screens. The quantum resonance between mother and cub generated harmonics that somehow managed to be both measurable and mystical, suggesting principles of natural organization that unified scientific understanding with deeper wisdom. "Look at these readings," Sarah whispered, gesturing to one of the displays. The neural activity patterns showed synchronization between all 6 cubs that created perfect geometric forms. It's like they're participating in some kind of natural ceremony that we're only beginning to recognize. The night sky above the facility continued its spectacular display, the Aurora borealis painting the clouds with colors that seemed to respond to the energy emanating from the birthing den. Local wildlife maintained their extraordinary vigil, with wolves howling in harmonies that matched the frequencies being generated by the 6th cub's vocalizations. Dr. Rosewood found herself thinking of all the nights she had spent observing wildlife, believing she understood the natural world. Now watching something that challenged every assumption she had ever made about what was possible in nature, she felt a profound sense of humility and wonder. We've been so focused on measuring and categorizing, she reflected aloud, that perhaps we forgot to simply witness. The 6th cub turned its remarkable gaze toward her as she spoke, its eyes containing depths that seemed to acknowledge her recognition of this deeper truth. The monitoring equipment captured evidence of phenomena that should have been impossible. Quantum entanglement occurring at a biological level, energy patterns that suggested consciousness operating across multiple dimensions, harmonics that somehow unified physical and spiritual aspects of existence. Joseph Standing Bear smiled, gently, watching the interplay of energies visible in the darkened den. Our ancestors understood that nature's greatest teachings often come when we learn to see with more than just our eyes, he said. What you're witnessing now is something they always knew was possible. The facility's botanical research team had discovered that plants throughout the center showed unprecedented growth during these night hours. Dr. Wilson's sophisticated sensors recorded patterns of energy exchange between the vegetation and the 6th cub that suggested possibilities for understanding natural systems in entirely new ways. It's as if everything is connected through networks we're only beginning to perceive, Sarah observed, reviewing the latest data. The monitoring equipment showed complex webs of interaction between all living things in the vicinity, centered around the extraordinary cub, but extending far beyond the facility's boundaries. Dr. Rosewood noticed how the moonlight entering through the observation window seemed to bend slightly around the 6th cub's form, creating optical effects that defied physical explanation. The phenomenon had been documented by their most sophisticated equipment, but remained impossible to explain. Through conventional scientific understanding, the night shift's technical team maintained their careful documentation, but even their most advanced instruments struggled to fully capture the subtle energies that filled the observation room. Some phenomena could be measured and quantified, while others seemed to exist in realms that transcended current scientific capability. Aurora's gentle breathing created patterns in the air that the specialized sensors registered as carrying complex information. The mother bear seemed to be participating in some kind of energy exchange with the surrounding environment, her massive form becoming a conduit for forces that connected earth and sky. The 6th cub continued its mysterious activities, each movement suggesting capabilities that went beyond physical limitation. Its fur rippled with patterns that matched both ancient sacred geometry and advanced quantum mathematics, as if it were demonstrating principles that unified different levels of natural law. Sarah's careful notes documented subtle changes in the local magnetic field, variations in quantum coherence patterns, and energy signatures that suggested consciousness operating at levels they were only beginning to understand. Each observation added to their growing recognition that they were witnessing something that transcended conventional categories of natural phenomena. The facility's sophisticated security systems maintained their quiet vigilance, protecting this extraordinary family while recording evidence of capabilities that would transform human understanding of what was possible in nature. Each night brought new mysteries, new patterns to contemplate, new possibilities to consider. As the midnight hours deepened, Dr. Rosewood felt a profound shift in her scientific perspective. Her years of wildlife medicine had taught her to look for explanations and categories, to understand through measurement and analysis. Now, watching something that defied those very parameters, she began to appreciate the wisdom of simply witnessing and wondering. The extraordinary cub turned its impossible golden eyes toward the observation window again, its gaze somehow acknowledging the humans who watched with such fascination. In that moment, Dr. Rosewood understood that they weren't just observing an unusual animal. They were being invited to expand their understanding of what was possible in the natural world. Joseph Standing Bear's quiet voice seemed to echo her thoughts. Sometimes the greatest scientific discovery is learning to see with new eyes, he said, watching the beautiful interplay of energies visible in the darkened den. What you're witnessing isn't just changing what we know, it's changing how we know. As midnight gave way to the deepest part of night, the observation room remained filled with a sense of profound possibility. Each quiet hour brought new mysteries, new patterns to contemplate, new ways of understanding the remarkable being that had chosen to emerge into their world. The sixth cub had become more than just a scientific phenomenon. It was a window into greater mysteries that had always existed in nature, waiting to be recognized by those ready to see them. As dawn approached the Yellowstone Wildlife Emergency Care Center, Dr. Rosewood stood at her familiar post by the observation window, reflecting on how their extraordinary discovery would reshape humanity's understanding of the natural world. The events they had witnessed weren't just a scientific breakthrough, they represented an invitation to expand our perception of what was possible in nature. The sixth cub had grown stronger with each passing day, its remarkable abilities continuing to challenge everything they thought they knew about biological development. Its fur still shimmered with those impossible patterns that seemed to bridge the gap between physical matter and pure energy, while its golden eyes contained depths of awareness that suggested consciousness operating on levels they were only beginning to understand. What we've witnessed here, Dr. Chen remarked during the morning briefing, isn't just changing our scientific understanding, it's transforming our perspective on what's possible in the natural world. The sophisticated monitoring equipment continued to record phenomena that defied conventional explanation, each new observation adding to their growing recognition of nature's deeper mysteries. The international scientific community had begun implementing changes based on their discoveries. Research institutions around the world were developing new protocols for studying wildlife, incorporating perspectives that allowed for possibilities beyond conventional biological limitations. The sixth cub's existence had opened doors to understanding that would benefit generations of future researchers. Sarah Martinez's comprehensive documentation system had already been adopted by leading wildlife centers globally. We're not just recording data anymore, she explained to a group of visiting scientists. We're learning to observe in ways that allow us to recognize possibilities we might have missed before. Her methods combined rigorous scientific observation with openness to unexpected phenomena. The facility's groundbreaking research had catalyzed unprecedented collaboration between different fields of study. Quantum physicists worked alongside wildlife biologists, traditional wisdom keepers consulted with genetic researchers, and ancient knowledge found new validation through advanced scientific investigation. This synthesis of perspectives created new frameworks for understanding natural phenomena. Dr. Montenegro's international network of researchers had begun documenting similar, though less dramatic anomalies in wildlife populations around the world. "It's as if this discovery has taught us to see with new eyes," she reported. "Oh, we're finding evidence of extraordinary capabilities in nature that we simply didn't know to look for before." The implications extended far beyond wildlife medicine. The sixth cub's unique characteristics had inspired innovations in fields ranging from quantum computing to environmental conservation. Its ability to process and transmit information through biological systems suggested possibilities that could revolutionize human technology while remaining in harmony with natural principles. Joseph Standing Bear's traditional wisdom had found new appreciation among scientific researchers. "Our ancestors understood that nature holds deeper mysteries than we can measure," he reminded them. "This discovery isn't just validating ancient knowledge, it's showing us how to bridge different ways of understanding the natural world." The facility's botanical research team had documented unprecedented changes in local plant life, suggesting possibilities for ecosystem restoration and adaptation. Dr. Wilson's observations of accelerated growth patterns and enhanced resilience in vegetation near the den offered hope for addressing environmental challenges through better understanding of natural systems. The sophisticated security systems protecting Aurora and her family had evolved into a model for wildlife conservation. Chief Ironhawk's integration of advanced technology with traditional protection methods demonstrated new approaches to preserving Earth's most remarkable creatures while allowing for crucial scientific research. Dr. Rosewood's comprehensive reports had begun influencing wildlife medicine practices worldwide. "We're learning to approach animal care with greater awareness of possibilities we never considered before," she explained during an international conference. Her experiences with the extraordinary cubs had led to new protocols that benefited all wildlife under human care. The center's advanced monitoring equipment continued recording evidence of phenomena that challenged conventional scientific understanding. Dr. Ravens's sophisticated sensors captured patterns of energy exchange between living systems that suggested deeper levels of connection in nature. These discoveries prompted new research into how biological systems interact with fundamental forces. Aurora's remarkable maternal behavior had inspired new studies in animal consciousness and intelligence. Dr. Elena Volkov's groundbreaking work on interspecies communication incorporated insights gained from observing the extraordinary family, leading to enhanced understanding of animal awareness and capabilities. The facility's extensive documentation would provide research material for generations of future scientists. Dr. Kumar's sophisticated recording systems had captured evidence of capabilities that would take years to fully understand. Each observation added to humanity's growing recognition of the profound mysteries still present in the natural world. Local communities had embraced their role as stewards of this remarkable discovery. Sheriff Redwing's innovative approach to managing public interest while protecting scientific research demonstrated how communities could support important discoveries while maintaining necessary boundaries. Her methods became a model for handling sensitive wildlife research situations. The center's environmental monitoring systems continued recording evidence of positive changes in the surrounding ecosystem. Dr. Wilson's research team documented how the presence of the extraordinary cubs seemed to enhance natural systems, suggesting possibilities for understanding and supporting environmental health in new ways. As global interest in their discovery grew, the facility maintained its commitment to responsible research and protection. Dr. Montenegro coordinated with international organizations to share their findings in ways that advanced scientific understanding, while preserving the sanctity of their extraordinary residence. The impact on public understanding of wildlife and nature had been profound. Through carefully managed educational programs, people learned about possibilities in nature that expanded their perspective on what was possible in the natural world. This enhanced awareness led to increased support for wildlife conservation and environmental protection. The facility's sophisticated research equipment continued recording evidence of phenomena that bridged different levels of natural law. Dr. Chen's analysis of quantum coherence patterns in biological systems suggested principles that could revolutionize human understanding of life itself. Aurora and her cubs had become symbols of nature's endless capacity to surprise and inspire. Their story reached people around the world, reminding humanity that the natural world still held mysteries, waiting to be discovered by those ready to see with new eyes. The center's ongoing research promised to influence scientific understanding for generations to come. Each new observation added to humanity's growing recognition that nature operated through principles far more sophisticated than previously imagined. The sixth cub's existence had opened windows into possibilities that would take years to fully comprehend. As the story of this extraordinary discovery spread, it inspired a new generation of researchers and naturalists. Young scientists learned to approach their studies with openness to possibilities beyond conventional understanding, while maintaining the rigorous methodology necessary for genuine scientific advancement. The facility's comprehensive documentation system continued preserving evidence of phenomena that challenged existing paradigms. Each recorded observation contributed to humanity's expanding understanding of what was possible in nature, creating resources that would benefit future researchers and conservationists. The impact of their discovery continued rippling through different fields of study, inspiring innovations and insights that transformed human understanding of the natural world. The sixth cub's existence had demonstrated possibilities that unified different areas of knowledge, suggesting deeper principles underlying all natural phenomena. As dawn painted the sky with fresh colors, Dr. Rosewood understood that their extraordinary discovery represented more than just scientific breakthrough. It was an invitation to recognize the profound mysteries still present in nature, waiting to be discovered by those willing to expand their understanding of what was possible. The story of Aurora and her remarkable family had become more than just a wildlife narrative. It was a reminder that nature still held secrets capable of transforming human understanding. Their discovery opened windows into possibilities that would inspire and guide future generations in their exploration of life's endless mysteries. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.